Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Caribbean Tech. It's, of course, the weekly, sometimes bi-weekly podcast that pretty much brings you what we curate, and we also originate some of the top Caribbean tech news, especially around startups and fintech and e-commerce and such interesting things. And we serve them up to you with unfiltered insights into the people and the businesses and all the trends that's driving all of that. My name is Ingrid Riley, and I'm the founder, they say, of Silicon Carib. And of course, he's still, again, in his national colors. Introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Daniel Smith, co-host of this podcast, and I'm the founder of Keepingly.
All right, so what's been going on? You look tired. Look as if we've both been, you see, this is what happens when, you have a podcast that is run by two entrepreneurs that are at the very interesting stages of their development. So you're tired. I am like, after this podcast, I'm going to go sip a glass of wine and finish watching Hassan Minaj's Netflix thing so I can do some laughing. And I'm going to put my laptop in a drawer till tomorrow.
I thought that you were going to say, well, I'm going to put my laptop in a drawer for the rest of the week.
Oh, how I wish. Oh, how I wish. But I'm counting down to Christmas. Christmas, like as well, pretty much like most of the world, 2 weeks before the end of the year, 2 or 3 weeks, everybody starts to like power down, right? And so I'm just saying, I'm just gonna keep going, and then I will be definitely for Christmas and for New Year's. But but here we go.
You said Christmas though, and in my mind, I'm thinking that feels like still 3 months away.
Oh God.
Are we there yet? That's
But anyway,
oh gosh, yes.
we need to be grateful. We're doing the thing that we love to do. We love to talk about, and so let's jump right into it and just have some fun. So yes. It's been an interesting week. Lots of interesting things popping out in the Caribbean for sure. And first up is that we have a new startup accelerator in the region. So Crypto Isle, Kanoo Pays, and Draper University just launched Kanoo Innovation Hub. And so what they're basically going to be doing is that they're going to be focusing on entrepreneurs and startups in the Web3, blockchain, and crypto space. And so they're going to find them, facilitate them, and fund them. So this is interesting for me because I know the ladies who founded Crypto Isle. That's where we had Silicon Carib's Future of Caribbean Money conference last December. So, Crypto Isle is founded by two women, Davinia Bain and okay, that's good. Okay, my brain, I'm coming to say your name. Don't kill me. Do not kill me. All right, let me go Google it right now. But anyway, so it's founded by Jillian Bethel. Her face popped into my head because I'm very visual, and then the name popped in right after. So Davinia Bain and Dr. Jillian Bethel are the co-founders of Crypto Isle. Kanoo Pay is headed by Nicholas Reese. Draper University, of course, is part of the whole Draper startup ecosystem by Tim Draper, the billionaire himself, who, of course, Draper Startup House have just entered the region as well. So very interesting times that Crypto Isle has brought together Kanoo Pays, which is one of the leading digital wallet fintech companies in the region. They've come together with Draper University to form this startup accelerator around Web3, blockchain, and things there. What are your thoughts there, Daniel? What do you thought?
I think that it's a very interesting development considering all the conversations that we've had around blockchain, Web 3.0, and crypto. Yeah. So I do think that it does augur well for just, where the ecosystem can go and what are the possibilities. I'd love to see who are some of the companies, in that first cohort
First
to
batch.
understand, yeah, exactly where they're thinking of going and what they want the results to be. But I think it's exciting times. I know you would love this, and you must be, jumping for joy at this moment, because at least, it's crypto in the region. It's going and I'm sure I'm gonna see some NFT stuff inside of there too.
Absolutely.
And so it's a good moment. I think that
Yeah.
I want to see who are the players and what. I think that for me would help, really crystallize, okay, what are the opportunities, and especially, details around how much money they're given, which is also part of those.
I don't hear about their giving, but they have a three
investing.
They have a 3-prong program. You can get in on the ground floor for $500, which is like the starter program, like the pre, and then the pre-seed accelerator is 4 weeks, $4,000, and the big kahuna accelerator is for longer, for 12,000. This is all US dollars, I am assuming. Well, yeah, the US Bahamian dollars is on par with the US dollar. So
yeah, it's actually everything. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. So they've open application and they're going, and they're going. For me, here's the thing that interests me. So a few years ago, World Bank, it's not IDB, World Bank, and the other one, can't remember the name of the other development organization, went around the Caribbean giving loans to different
European Union.
What's that?
Was it European Union?
No, it was in European Union. So it's something like IDBs, but it's like it's one of the offshoots of World Bank, but I cannot remember.
Okay.
No, and so went around to different Caribbean countries, giving them loans to open up what in essence were startup hubs. And so in some cases, they paired with already in place local community leaders, in Barbados, Trinidad, here in Jamaica. We worked with them here to do a couple of events and some interventions as well. So at one point there, across the region, maybe around, I would say 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, at its peak, we had around 15 startup hubs across the region, 15. Then that was the peak. Then pretty much the money ran out, and it was up to, or in some cases, the government shifted the money to other more expeditious political things. And yeah, and so, I'm not going to hold punches on that one, but and so at one point we had 15 startup innovation hubs across the region. Then the funding ran out. Some companies, or entities didn't have follow-on funding, or of course the program was stopped by government, or whatever it is. And then there's just been this period of quiet. And so what happened was that there's people almost like went into their corners and started forming new micro groups. So outside of Silicon Valley was still there in Jamaica, Slashroots is still there in Jamaica. The new base on the block is Tech Beach Retreat, came out, I think, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. 10 Habitats, Selwyn, they've been around for 12 years. Silicon Valley has been around for 15. So, and then, there are other, like Dominica had issues because they had a hurricane. So there was a period of quiet for a lot of years across the region. But recently, we're seeing again the almost like resurgence of startup accelerators and innovation hubs. We have accelerators that are born from corporate entities. JMMB has their own startup accelerator in Jamaica here. We have RevUp Caribbean, which comes as a sort of an arm out of the First Angels group, led by Sandra Glasgow. Of course, there are others that are, coming up in Trinidad, and now we have this innovation hub, Startup Accelerator out of Bahamas. So it's interesting. And I think the one in Aruba did, of course, do its pandemic pause and are now, basically coming back again. So it's interesting to see the innovation hubs coming up differently. They're primarily, so far, I would say 8 out of 10, mostly private money led. like, crypto is led by two women that has done very well in crypto. Let's just call a spade, right? Kanoo pays, that company is doing phenomenally well. They just moved, they're doing some interesting things in the region and about to do some things as well. Draper House is owned by a freaking billionaire. So it's going to be interesting that the shift seems to be happening from government-led initiatives paired with, the entrepreneurs that are on the ground already, to primarily entrepreneur-led initiatives. Frankly, I love that. Because I believe, as an ecosystem builder myself for the past 15 years, I just believe that entrepreneurship initiatives of any kind should be led by entrepreneurs. What do you say?
Agreed. I think that also what it points to is that government-led initiatives are a bit force-fed, and the motivations behind it are not necessarily always aligned with what needs to happen for the industry to grow.
Correct.
And so I do believe
innovation hubs can't be linked to political cycles, election cycles. Let's just, we can't have that.
well, if you want them to die, of course you link them to that. But I mean, and that's just being honest and truthful about it, because governments and political parties have their agendas, or even though it's maybe the same government, ministers change, this one has their agenda and motivations and what have you. So that is not necessary. And so I think that the evolution that you've just described really is what we require. But it is also, we also need to determine how we get the other players into the ecosystem, because I think that we, largely look at, okay, how do we get VC money, or how do we get funding, or, how do we build the ecosystem? And then if you look on the banking side, which is the traditional debt side, you realize that nothing has really changed in traditional debt. Versus in other ecosystems, you realize that, okay, well, you have Silicon Valley Bank, you have a bunch of others who, start doing some kind of debt, initiatives that would help entrepreneurs, even though you can't necessarily get all the funding out of VC, you have other instruments that you can use. So I do think that, where that is concerned, it would be interesting to see how the other areas of the ecosystem, because some of the areas of the ecosystem are still risk averse. And so I think that what you're talking about means that a lot of these people who are successful have to start pouring their money back in, and then they kind of use their leverage and their power to really say, okay, banks, or okay, other ecosystem players, this is how we're going to run this to make it successful. And have to use their leverage in terms of creating change in the ecosystem. So I do believe that that can happen, but they're going to have to step up big time in terms of using their leverage.
Yeah, and again, we have to be mindful too that we're not to expect miracles, because ecosystems take time. And while we have, made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot, and we can use different things to probably accelerate certain things, there's still no, shortcut to building an ecosystem and finding, facilitating, and funding startups to success. Because we know that around 90% of startups do fail anyway. And so it has to be a case where we has to be patient, smart, aligned, kind
strategic.
of strategic money that comes to entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs at least will have some homegrown, region grown, facilitation and funding and other communities to choose from. So what I'm hoping to see, honestly, is that some Jamaicans think like they can go to Bahamas, and Bahamas can come to Jamaica. So there's a little bit more intermingling. Bajans can come to go to Guadeloupe, and there's just more collaboration within the region at this stage of the region's development overall, but also because each nation is at a different level of development. So yeah, so that's kind of where we are. So kudos to everybody at at Kanoo, at Crypto Isle, at Kanoo Innovation Hub. And let's see what you guys pump out over the next few years. As we talk about money, finding and facilitating and funding, we speak. You got this. You pick this up because you're in a certain zone with your prop tech startup, and you picked up this story. So you run a lead on this.
So what we're seeing is that in Q3, VC funding was down by 52% year over year, and 33% quarter over quarter. And with venture capital funding declining rapidly during the third quarter, down 52%. Yeah. So it does, to me, it does sound certain signals. If I even listen to what, following Jamie Dimon yesterday and what he said, he's thinking
Who's that?
Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase.
Okay.
And so he's talking about, recession is on the way within the next 6 to 9 months. I saw a story while I was prepping to come on about Intel going to lay off thousands of workers. So I think that, we're all in this cycle of either in a recession or very close to a recession. And, startups are going to feel the heat in terms of, how do I survive to fight another day? Because the funding in certain sectors, especially later stage, we don't have as much people going public. So some of those companies that would normally go public are also sucking the money away from other companies who would get funding at this stage, because some of them can't go public because, hey, the market isn't right for them to go public, so they're staying private longer. And so it's just a whirlwind in terms of, because once they go public, at least VCs get back their money, people start feeling a bit freer and looser, so they may invest into other things. Once they stay in private, then they need money too, because a lot of them are either not necessarily cash flow positive as yet or don't have enough money in their system. So I do think that it does, for the whole ecosystem all around, these numbers point to people figuring out how do I live to fight another day. And the numbers, if Q4 numbers come back with these dismal numbers, it also would point to some type of recession, in terms of especially for funding. So,
and we're talking about American recession primarily here, but it seems as if as the thing said, the story said, is that seed stage funding seems to be safe because people are still pouring money into seed stage startups because they still want to plant some seeds and see where things go. But as you said, in the early to late stage, that's where money has really kind of fallen off a cliff. And I think what it says to me is that VCs are saying, you know what, prove to us that this is a viable entity. This is a viable business without the overbloat of staff, without the, us burning through as much money as you'd like to, because a lot of these venture fund startups, venture funded businesses, especially in certain sectors, they take on money so they can move as fast as possible and get as many people as possible to get to the prize, which is high growth, high valuation, to go IPO and get back their money. So this is where, as I say, the real entrepreneurs are born in markets like these, where you said, all right, cool, you may have to bite the bullet, pop the red pill and see what you can do differently over the next couple of months. So yeah, so as I said, survival of the fittest over the next year for sure. Yeah, and that leads us to our third item, which is talk about survival of the fittest. There's still innovation happening across the world because, as we know, some of the biggest tech names, the tech brands, the Microsoft, the Airbnbs, were all born in recessions. And so those who have that eye, who have that drive, who have the, the resources, the ability to connect the dots and to connect people are still innovating. And so out in Trinidad and Tobago, Z Labs, which is led by Mark Pereira, it's a software development agency specializing in blockchain and mobile solutions. They say that they're going to their early adopter community and fans for some funding so that they can actually grow. So they pretty much positioned, their mobile money solution called WAM, positioned for, as I say, underbanked emerging markets, right? So WAM allows you to, it makes it easier for you to send and receive money, make payments, and as a business, take payments using a QR code. So, and they're also going after the social commerce market. So that's actually, in their WhatsApp group yesterday when I saw the announcement. So they're going to have like a live town hall in person and on town hall this week to say, hey, this is what we want to do. Here's how you can become part of the opportunity to, move WAM, this digital wallet, this digital money solution to the next level. What are your thoughts? Those are your people in your country, sir.
I'm happy that those guys are finding ways and finding means to be able to make it happen.
Yeah.
Again, just go back to the ecosystem story I think we were talking about before. It's difficult and it's tough. I would want to understand basically, and I guess, when they release the details of how they're going about getting the funding or, how they plan to tap into, because it seems like, crowdfunding of some sort. And I'd like to understand what are the rules around crowdfunding, especially in the region, for things like this. So for me, there was, the devil is in the details of how they plan to execute on this. So
do you have any ideas as to how, because we have certain parameters here in Jamaica about accredited investors. You have to have like a net worth of 50 million Jamaican dollars, or you have had to like $10 million in cash or something like that, that is required by the Financial Services Commission, the FSC here. Do you know of any such, limits or parameters in Trinidad in terms of like individual investors?
I'm not up to speed on that.
Okay,
on
well,
that,
we'll
that part of the equation, but we can certainly go do the research and find out.
we're gonna see what Mark and his other team and his team have to say this week, because I'm definitely gonna attend the live and see what it is that they're up to.
Yeah, but that's some fantastic stuff though. I would love to see how it takes off and how it evolves. And hopefully they are able to get the funding from their community. Because
I believe they will. I believe they will. Because I mean, Mark, and some of the people again were new and somewhat successful in crypto and NFTs. People like Illumina 333, my boy who owns the largest crypto Caribbean community called Crypto Caribbean. Big up, and he has a podcast that is of the same name as well. So I think they'll get it done. So it'll be interesting to watch them in terms of how they actually do it. So yeah, and talking about mobile money and apps and digital payments and stuff like that, we're going to our fourth story, which is about and here's Bahamian digital payments company Island Play decides they're going to fly over to Barbados to fish for fresh customers. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
I thought I was being cute.
I read it on Silicon Caribbean. I was like, okay, yeah. Ingrid, you're trying to get between the Bajans and the Trinidadians over the flying fish. Okay.
Listen, Barbados is known for flying fish, just like how Jamaica is known for jerk. So what? I just had to put it in there. But anyway, the story is that Island Pay has, again, it's Bahamas seem to be doing some interesting. It's a Bahamian company. They've done well. They've onboarded around 13% of the Bahamian population. They have around over 55,000 people using their digital payment system in Bahamas. So they say, it's time to expand. Yes, we're going over to BIM. We're going over to Auntie Mia's space to see if we can replicate this. So they've gone over, they've launched, they've put up their first access kiosk, and so they're hoping to do to replicate their success that they've had in Bahamas, of course, over in Barbados. Do you think they can do so, Danielle?
I think that what we just had, what did we just have coming out to Barbados this week? FinTech Islands.
Yes, yeah, FinTech Islands was last week.
So
yeah,
and so, you know, Barbados is positioning themselves to be one of the fintech players. So I do think for them it's a brilliant move. I mean, because you wouldn't, I mean, it is a market that for the regulation, they have the sandbox, they have a lot of things in Barbados. So I think it's a brilliant play for them. The question is, how much competition are they going to face? But, you know, I think that they are right. They're thinking very strategically about it, and they do have an opportunity to, you know, expand their base.
Yeah, it had me thinking about digital wallets and digital money solutions and where exactly things are within the Caribbean. So I did a quick, you know, check. I should have actually put this in the thing there in the article, but I'll probably do something that is separate. Right now, I think I counted around 10 digital wallet mobile money apps in the Caribbean. We have like Link, out of Jamaica, MyCash, which is from Digicel, and oh God, Paymaster, and Haiti has Moncash, which is basically their French version of MyCash, which still is there. Barbados has M-Money, which was done by Bit. Right. Of course, there's WePay out of Jamaica, Trinidad, etc. Then there's Squeeze Cash and Penny Pinch, which is a recent one out of St. Lucia. Wham, which we just spoke about out of Trinidad. Then there's Jad Cash out of St. Kitts. And yeah, and so it seems to be an interesting, that's why I keep saying, you know, fintech and all the various subsectors of fintech, that includes like digital payments and stuff, is going to figure very, very strongly over the next couple of years in the Caribbean region. So that's why you're going to see a lot of interesting global eyes and global brands coming into the region, the Visas and the MasterCards and others that come into sort of try and see how much they can scrape up or take up in the region in these spaces. So interesting times ahead for sure.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, when we start talking about, you know, digital inclusion or financial inclusion and all of those who are the unbanked and the underbanked and all these terminologies that we have for them. And we know that, especially in the Caribbean, you know, we have a large unbanked population.
Sure, and underbanked as well.
And underbanked as well. It does provide opportunities, but I would say the caveat that I have is, you know, how many of these solutions can survive? I know the Penny Pinch guys because we were in the same Accelerator program together, and I saw they were even in FinTech Islands. So I know some of these guys, the WePay guys, you know. So the question I have in my mind is like, okay, how can we ensure that all of these are differentiating enough? And then as a consumer, I'm even thinking saturation point. How many of these things do I want to see? Or, you know, everybody may have their own preferences, but then the question really is, how can, and also you do have Digicel with their own, you know, who's the only regional player, I think. WePay maybe like second because they have, you know, a large footprint in terms of Jamaica, Trinidad, etc. How many of these will either be very niche, or how many of them would actually blow up? The niche may survive, but the question is, you know, for those who are really competing, you know, you counted 8. I'm sure there are maybe more than that. The question is, how do some of them survive and actually make money?
The market decides always. I think what has happened initially is what I'm seeing here is a couple of things. There are definitely the disruptors, the startups who saw that there was, you know, something would need to happen, and decided they're going to go ahead. They had the resources in terms of the developers and the money and the time to get certain things done. So the Kanoo pays, you know, the Z Labs, you know, Squeeze Cash, they're all from entrepreneurs, scrappy entrepreneurs, you know, disruptors say, you know, I'm just going to come into this space because these legacy banks taking too long. And then you have the legacy banks that say, whoa, we've got to come in this as well, like Link, because Link is Link App is a subset of NCB, which is the largest bank in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just announced, Link just announced a couple of days ago that say, yeah, you think we're done with just account, meaning that the clincher for them, and it's going to be interesting to see, is that they're likely to go straight into the remittance market. And so they as a Link app, as a digital wallet, an app that has that ability, which is, there is going to be interesting to see how they compete with Grace Kennedy Financial Services, because by virtue of what you call it now, outlets, spots to get you, Grace Kennedy is the dominant player in the Jamaican market. But those are physical locations.
Physical. Mm-hmm.
So Link app come with something with your phone now, and if they go ahead and become aggressive and now get into that digital remittances market, it's going to be really interesting to watch that happens. And in there too, I was reading the other day about crypto remittances. Mm-hmm. And how that trend is ramping up very quickly. One, because it's faster. Two, you don't have to leave your yard, jump in a bus or Uber to go to a physical location. It's on your phone. And of course, it's faster and it is cheaper. So crypto remittances are taking on a trend up, but not yet, it seems, in the region. So There's very interesting things to see what will come up with all these digital wallets and how they seek to compete within their own, national space, within the regional space, and how they seek to differentiate themselves. But I mean, I love when there's competition, right? It's like Uber and InDrive and the rest of them, because the customer will win.
I hear you, and I 100% agree. I think that also we also need to see if there's any increased regulation on with all of these things coming into the market.
Absolutely. But as we all know, it is something that is global. It's no different here in the region, that innovation always outpaces legislation. Yep. And so I always hope that there'll be light touch legislation that will continue to allow innovation to grow, because Jano, the region, needs it. So load the thing, but fly.
Ingrid, you have to take account of the very high, heavy-handed approach in terms of regulation sometimes, and it's because they don't understand.
Correct.
What is, so they overcorrect rather than being a light touch. So absolutely. I think that you need to bring some of them so that you can school them.
They can listen to us here, and they can watch what the successful entrepreneurs do, and just be open. Because can you imagine if the governments on the African continent was heavy-handed with legislation when it came to M-Pesa? Then they would not have leapfrog in terms of ability to allow their citizens to participate in mobile money, so they can get their salaries, pay for a cab or pay for food. And so there have been light years. Parts of Africa are light years ahead of America, ahead of the Caribbean. So light touch legislation, to the people who are in charge of that, light touch. Our friends, light touch. Anyway, speaking about light touch legislation, and well, not so light touch. So in Jamaica, they are around a day or so ago, the Broadcasting Commission say, you know what, enough of this chopper music, enough of this stuff, we're done. So the Broadcasting Commission said that they're banning, let me read it because it was fascinating. So of course, all the entertainers are pissed off that the Broadcasting Commission has said that pretty much they're banning the transmission of any recorded material that promotes and or glorifies illegal activity. They're specifically going after this new genre of dancehall called chopper music. And of course, if y'all don't know what chopper is, unfortunately, it's the scammers who call your phone and tell that you win money, and there's no such thing. And there are other kind of scams that are out there. So the scammers and the other people who are doing some illegal stuff. They have their own sound and their own subgenre of dancehall, which really kind of was, blew up all over the place. And when I say all over the place, it leads to my point. All over the place, on radio in some instances, but primarily in at parties. And of course, they are consuming it online. So the entertainers are pissed off at the Broadcast Commission and say, "Oh, you're reaching at this. This is called censorship." And so for me, how I see it is that it's going to be interesting that the Broadcasting Commission in Jamaica are telling Jamaican radio, TV, what they call broadcasters, that's a broad brush, that they need to ban and stop playing this music immediately. But as I always say, digital culture, there are like over almost 2 million Jamaicans who are online. YouTube is one of the top 3 apps that Jamaicans consume. And that's where they get a lot of their news and their music. Of course, there's Spotify and other ways, but it's primarily through YouTube. How are you going to, your broadcasting commission, which is based in Jamaica on Jamaican law, cannot transfer to YouTube and other ways of transmission. So it's going to be interesting to see how this ban is executed, but more or less interpreted. What's your case? What's your thoughts about this digital culture clash and the chopper music with their no, it's not creativity, but go ahead.
So remember on the weekend there was an article that I sent you when we were going back and forth of PayPal's ban. And I see it very similar.
Well, talk about the PayPal ban.
So PayPal decided to ban certain entities who would use their services if they were promoting misinformation. And so there were a lot of people who were offended by that. Again, my opinion.
But what I said was they could take $2,500 out of your account. Could take if you're so comfortably promoting.
Right.
Yeah.
To be promoting misinformation.
Right.
And while some people find it draconian, I know you were like, I don't understand this. For me, my position is that here's what is their platform. So therefore, they have all right to protect their platform. And I think that, what I find though is that we've gotten to a state in the world where misinformation has become so par for the course. That we tend to, oh well, it's just another day. And for me, even in that conversation, well, if I'm linking it back to what is going on in Jamaica and the music and stuff, it's like, here's what, while people may have an issue with it, depending on who you are in your stage of life, you may be a single free person and it'll really impact you. But you know what? It have kids who may listen to that and it may have an impact upon them. So the question is, if I go back to economic theory about what is for the greater good, some of these decisions are taken about the greater good, while not defending, people's ability to have freedom of speech. I do think that, some people go overboard in terms of what their freedom of speech is, or, thinking that they aren't accountable to others around what they say. And so I think some of this is just, kind of reining in some of the excessiveness that has happened within our society sometimes. But, I think that, the powers that be have to find the middle ground between, okay, what is okay for public consumption, but okay, how do we still protect people? So, I mean, it could go either way, but I do think that there is a responsibility to make sure that we protect the public in some of these instances.
Yeah, I get so. It's a very tricky thing, because their argument is that it's getting too much into the high schools. It's affecting kids. It is promoting violence and that kind of thing. And we could debate this until the cows come home. in terms of influence. I mean, some people could say that, Bob Marley music, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy, could also be promoting violence and stuff like that. That's if you take it literally. But it's just interesting. For me, I think the angle is fine. You want to achieve a particular thing and you believe that this is within your power to execute. So, and of course, there'll be financial and other consequences for radio, TV, and other broadcasters if they, break this ban. But for me, is that you break it in mainstream media, but it's just going to blow up, thanks to digital culture online, and that's, is where you don't have. You don't regulation. Yeah. But the thing is, can they go ahead and say, what, YouTube, Facebook, you have your own, criteria for how people need to operate on your platforms. Can you partner with us? So it's going to be interesting to see mainstream media versus digital culture within this whole realm, and with, the freedom of speech and creativity smashed in the middle. So
my question though, and I agree with you, I think, from that point of view, but what I've found around Caribbean culture and even how we regulate the internet, etc., is that a lot of times we don't even take that extra step. So I don't foresee them taking that extra step to say, hey, YouTube, or hey, any of these streaming platforms, yes, we want to ensure that Spotify or whoever saying, hey, we want to ensure that this music doesn't, I hardly suspect. So even if you drop it on a SoundCloud or you drop it in Spotify or any of these other players, I do think that, you have an opportunity, if it's that important to you, to find a way around the system. Because I don't think that your regulators are going to go that far into.
Because you can't regulate what people have on their phones. I mean,
exactly.
WhatsApp it.
Yeah, exactly.
That has happened many times for other ungodly things. But yeah, so it's going to be, again, digital culture against the mainstream media and the parameters of this particular law, with creativity and freedom of speech smashed in the middle of this sandwich. So we're going to be looking at what happens over the next, over the next couple of weeks. We know there's going to be some backlash. The entertainment community has already come out and is like, what that? So yeah, so we're going to see what happens there. Anyway, we're taking our sights to big foreign, as we call it, to the United States, and somewhat come back. So the last episode, we said that Elon Musk had applied to get a license to operate his broadband internet company, Starlink, here in Jamaica. He got it. So he now has the green light to become, in essence, Jamaica's third satellite broadband internet company, because there are two others that are homegrown that came before him. We have Redinet, which is owned by Chris Daring, former Cable and Wireless chair and CMO. And then we have Neptune Communications, which is owned by Guy Bennett Easy, and also I think a Bayesian, I can't remember his name right now. So he's now the third satellite broadband company to operate in Jamaica. So good luck, and let's see what happens on the ground in terms of competition. Again, I'm a woman who likes for businesses to duke it out over the consumer. So yes.
So Musk on my yard.
So Musk on my yard. And of course, there were jokes on Twitter saying, no, I'm not coming to Jamaica to go Lego no satellite. I'm coming for some high grade, right? So, and I was like, oh boy, whatever. So let's see, from a business standpoint, can he hack it with the local big boys in the satellite broadband space? So I think that
how much money he's willing to put to make sure that he becomes,
dominant
in the
if he really wants to, because this is his first foray into the Caribbean with Starlink. Yeah. And as we always said, pretty much you've said that these global brands tend to come to Jamaica first because we're the largest English-speaking Caribbean country. and tend to be ahead of a couple of others as well. So yeah, I guess time will tell again to see what exactly.
And it follows the digital strategy. So
yeah, that's the digital strategy. Jamaica first, and then kill it, and then move to the rest of the region. So yeah. Anyway, on to our penultimate story. 50. So this is something that I was thinking about, because it was just about crypto, as crypto was on my mind. You know, the market
right.
the market is full of opportunity right now. Let's just put it that way. The numbers are interesting.
Right.
But so I'll say, so I was reading up on crypto news as usual, and I found out that there are a couple of American brands that now accept crypto payments, because I don't think people understand what's happening right now. Even though the price points for like the dominant ones, Bitcoin and ETH, are below way below some of the highs that has happened over the last 18 months. Of course, this presents a fantastic opportunity to onboard a lot of institutions, because every day we're seeing new updates. You know, Google is partnering with Coinbase, which is the largest crypto exchange. To people can use crypto to pay for their cloud services. So the adoption, especially on the big brand institutional level, is happening like crazy. So, but I went and looked and realized that there are brands that we know about, that we've seen across the region, your Burger Kings, your fast food joints, right, that have now started to accept crypto for payment. So I wrote this, I said, how many of them? So I realized there are 15 American brands that do business in the Caribbean that now accept crypto payments in the US market. But when I looked at what was happening in the region in terms of Caribbean crypto ownership and usage, it's still around 1 to 2% in terms of adoption. And of course, legislation is like back here. But the 15 crypto-friendly and crypto-transacting American brands that are now operating in the Caribbean, like Burger King, KFC, Subway, consumer packaged goods, Coca-Cola, tech, Microsoft, Twitch, other companies that Caribbean people use regularly, Amazon, ExpressVPN, Expedia. And so I think the reason why I did this, because I wanted to ask the question is, the fact that there are these American brands that are now accepting crypto payments in their home country, will that accelerate that culture, the crypto culture, help to accelerate the crypto culture here in the region? And especially when it comes to things like tourism, which is a big slice of how we make our money in the region. How can that influence what is happening here in the region? So I just kind of wrote a short piece for SiliconCarib.com around that. You have anything to say? Because I know you're not really into the crypto thing, my youth.
Well, I don't know.
You're not into the crypto thing, yes, but go on, go along.
Boy, you like to beat me up a bit on this, but no, I think again, it's about the regulation and what happens in the region. I think that again, you see a bunch of this happening, and I don't know how much even what has your research discovered in terms of usage even in the US in terms of some of these things, because I've never gone.
The US, the crypto usage in the States right now is 13% of the population, almost 50 million. Almost 50 million people either own or use crypto in that market.
Well, the usage part, in terms of what I'm thinking about, as relates to your story, I don't know how many people use it on a day-to-day or do transactions via it. So, because when I even rule about, it's like mainstream, okay, your card, this, that, the other. So, again, I do think that this is a window and an opportunity, but, even from a standpoint of leapfrogging, I think though that it can present the opportunity in the region to even leapfrog. But, that's the question around leadership and what kind of leadership we have to make sure that people are thinking of how do I enable the population, and also the leadership also comes with a heavy responsibility of education. So I do think that, again, it's about how we educate people, how we get people to start adopting, and then leapfrogging, what portends in other markets. So it can give the Caribbean that opportunity, but it's who wants to take the lead and who is taking the lead to ensure that that happens.
Well, I think my theory is that I think remittances and tourism will lead the way in terms of helping the Caribbean to adopt crypto payments, increase the crypto friendliness.
Right.
And the thirdly would be just simply the opportunity to make money, especially from the creatives who are in the Web3, AR, NFT, space. So that's my prediction, that tourism, remittances, and the ability to earn, creators' ability to earn, and from a global market and have that money come to them quickly and cheaply will probably be the three things that will help to drive the Caribbean crypto culture.
And I think, as you said, creatives, I think that they may have the largest opportunity to be able to lead in this space. Because again, a lot of our region is really focused on that creative side. And so being able to get those people onto this and, taking that risk, I would say, in being able to, okay, I don't want to be paid via check or whatever. I want to be paid by crypto. This is my wallet, these are the details, send me my money via crypto. And I think that, and then having them speak, because remember, a lot of how I would say that Caribbean is one of those perfect places around even influencer culture, because, hey, if XYZ doing it, then, it's easy to filter. And even when you start looking at the region is still focused a lot on even Facebook, when internationally it's Facebook /IG, then internationally it's like really more TikTok, etc. And I think that we kind of veering towards that. But when you look at it, it's a lot of influencer culture that is in our region. And I think that those are the people who can help facilitate these trends and really help them to be amplified.
Yeah, and that leads perfectly into our final story today. Today, you picked it up. So you run with it, sir.
So Joel Nomdarkham.
What's up, Joel?
So he wrote an article saying 3 ways social media platform can amplify Caribbean voices. And so, I picked it up and I was like, this is an interesting piece, because ultimately, this is something that anybody who has been in the space of being a creator in the Caribbean feels the pain. I know we've had the conversations of, okay, how do I do stuff and then get paid? So he was saying that regions in the Caribbean region face challenges in terms of gaining access to monetization tools and features. We know a few years ago, I think YouTube opened up. We when Spotify opened up in the region, you and I covered that, multiple times, when they first did their pilot and then they expanded. And so he goes on to say, the Caribbean population has 43 million people, and the Caribbean continues to be shaped by historical experience in religion, festivals, fashions, which play a role in marketing and bringing the right audience. But then he asks the question, why does the region continue to be on the periphery of global social media community in terms of product offerings and resources? And, when, if you look at it, it's like we're always lumped with Latin America. So
don't get me started. Yes.
No comment.
Not Latin America. IDB, y'all who like to lump us Latin America and the Caribbean, when they put all the quotes and the data, it's all Latin America, 0 Caribbean. Wanna stop it. Go ahead, Daniel. I had to get that up for me.
I have sat where you sat, and I live in Miami, so I live in Latin America.
Yes,
but
the 305 is Latina. Hey, no hate for Latinos. I'm just saying we're different from the Caribbean, and y'all know that. We all love planting, but listen, no, We're not the same. We are not the same. But go ahead, sir. Sorry for interrupting you. Mhm.
It's fine. I think that ultimately, the question that Joel has asked, it's really poignant in terms of, and I think that Spotify has been one of those who've taken the lead, in terms of even with what we have covered. But the question is, how do we get, because when you start looking at even YouTube, how much Caribbean influencers, for me, I had my own fashion brand, and I know how influential fashion is for the region in terms of what the opportunities and the possibilities are in terms of what people see, and even how it bleeds into diaspora audiences who, while we 43 million in the Caribbean, some numbers say that the diaspora audiences are larger than that, because it's like the first generation and the second generation. So I do think that there are opportunities, but the question is, do these, and I don't think that it's even that hard for some of these organizations to really just open up the monetizational tools for the region. The question is just, currencies and all that kind of stuff, and that may be where crypto comes into. And I think that may be how crypto really is amplified and transferred. So I do think that the questions that Joel have asked here, and, I think one of the things is, how do our regional leaders push? Because when you start looking at what inflation numbers are, what remittances are, what our GDP is, and all these economic numbers, and you realize to the region, Barbados just went to the IMF for money, just take a lot of money to be able to, and then we're looking at all these things around climate change, etc. We as a region have to have leaders who start asking these companies, hey, or people look at your stuff, or people are domiciled here, or whatever the case may be. We want to understand how we can generate revenue off of these things. The Facebooks of this world, Caribbean creators, the IGs of this world, TikTok, all of these.
Well, people, I don't know anybody who's making money off Caribbean people who are making money off TikTok directly, but I definitely know a lot of YouTube people who are making some money. And there are people who are making money off IG in terms of, if they have a strong community, they're able to get Caribbean brand deals. But yeah, you're right. In terms of international brand deals, there's a dearth of that. But yeah. I get that I'm glad that he asked these questions, because we have a lot to offer the world. And I think it is, I think, again, they see the Caribbean as small, total population of 44 million, but they don't look at the Caribbean. They need to look at the Caribbean differently. As you said, huge diaspora population, and what that diaspora does, the value of that diaspora to any industry, whether it is remittances, groceries, food, travel, whatever it is, that they need to look at the Caribbean and differently. But I think what he's really focused on is Caribbean voices in terms of Caribbean creators, and opening up additional, why aren't, say for instance, maybe agencies that are based in the States or Europe looking for Caribbean influencers to pay them money just as how they pay their European or American? Is it that those creators need to become bigger? Do those creators need some PR so that they become more known? Do those creators become more have more initiative in terms of going to seek out collaborations with additional other creators who are in spaces as well? So there are more than different, pardon me, there are more ways to look at it. When you talk about leaders, I hope you're not talking about political leaders. I really hope you're speaking.
No. I think that
I hope you're talking about business leaders.
No, business and creative leaders also, because the last question I think that he asked, where does the region fit in terms of conversations around DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity initiatives for Caribbean marketers and creators? And I think that, for me, I have been, a champion of the DEI conversation, because I think that it's one of those things that we absolutely need to be in on and be really focused on how we stand out and our voices are heard. So it's one of those things that I think that we have to figure out where we fit in the space. But more than anything, in terms of the leadership, I do think that for our region, our leaders are, Beanie and Marshall and more of them than your political leaders.
Correct.
Because they have, Bob has transformed the world, he's dead how many years, and yet still, everybody know who Bob Marley is. And so ultimately, I think that those are the leaders who can, I don't know that they sometimes understand their power to be able to transform.
You mean our cultural leaders or creators that are globally resonating globally. Yeah.
And so even that, we joke, I guess, we talk about the Usain effect and what he can do, and, even in the startup culture.
Lately, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce,
right,
who I really hope wins the Woman of the Year for the World Athletes thing. Vote Shelley-Ann. I'm very biased about Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. I was gonna tell you about your friend who beat you the other day, and she's like, the American girl.
Oh.
So,
people, he's talking about Sha'Carri Richardson. There's no hate towards Sha'Carri, but she has a few years to go, and I don't know when she's gonna win again. And it was a wet day, it was a rainy day, and Elaine Thompson, our reigning queen, was tired, and she won by a hair. That will never happen again. That's like Justin Gatlin saying that he beat Usain Bolt when Usain Bolt was pretty much limping down the finger, and it never happened again. So Sha'Carri will never beat Elaine Thompson again. Yeah. So or any other Jamaican female athlete for that matter. I know I have to rub it in. Hush. We have a sprint factory. I just want to let you all know. So yeah.
But
I'm sorry.
And that was hilarious because I did poke you the other day and I realized you didn't answer when I saw that one. I was like, and the person who tweeted it had this big long narrative, and I was just like, okay, let me poke Ingrid a little bit. But yes. Our cultural ambassadors and leaders in the region have to understand what their power is, and they have to, because from Elaine to Shelley-Ann to Usain to all of these athletes, when you start looking at their IG or their Twitter following, etc., you realize that they have a whole heap of people who follow them. The question is millions. And the question is, how do they monetize even for themselves, or are they thinking of that, or just using?
They are. So I think some of them are.
Some of them are.
Are.
But the question is, how do they? Now start, okay, here's what I have, my power, I have my influence. How do I make sure that Ingrid, who in secondary school, who looking up to me as an influencer and may want to be an influencer, how do I make sure that the pipeline is there? Because Ingrid may not necessarily be a sprinter, and she may not be, but Ingrid wants to earn a living too. So how do we make sure that we have the pathways open to create those conversations? And I do think that that's where their power and influence comes in, and how they can use it.
Yeah, so I mean, kudos to Joel for sparking this conversation. I'm expecting a Twitter space from you, Joel. Yeah, I'm calling you out, sir. And so yeah, this conversation needs to be had over and over again, and some solutions found, because there are definitely solutions. I mean, it's a big, beautiful, abundant world out there that is now connected by the internet. There are opportunities for us all, for sure. Yeah, so we're wrapping up now, sir. So just one more thing for me to say is that we had mentioned in the last podcast, but now it's on, which is Pocmi, which is a Jamaican startup which is focused on addressing global talent shortage. Pocmi stands for Piece of Cake Migration. It's POCMI.com. Their global job fair week is in the middle of things right now. It goes on until the 15th. So you can jump on to POCMI.com and have a look and participate and hear what is going on in terms of global talent shortages, speak, in terms of trends, in terms of opportunities in the region and around the world. So I hit that. Again, do let us know what is happening in your neck of the woods in the region. If you're a Caribbean anywhere in the world, let us know. If you're in tech, if you're in business, if you're an executive in a tech organization, reach out to us, news at siliconcarib.com. Let us know what is happening in your region. We'd love to share it with our growing audience. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for this watching this episode of This Week in Caribbean Tech from Silicon Carib. If you found something of value, gosh, share it, like it, comment, rate us 5 stars. For sure, share with some people, be generous, share with your friends and colleagues. So you can, of course, watch us on Silicon Carib TV on YouTube, and you can listen to us, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you listen to audio podcasts. Any last words before I wrap up and say bye? Because my soul on me,
this was, I like this episode. People
I do, I like this episode, yeah.
People were saying last week that they liked last week's episode too. They said it was really informative. Some of those who popped on my LinkedIn. So
we have to keep it going, and we're going to definitely keep it going. If you want to, we're open to sponsorship. If you want to sponsor us, just hit us up, news@siliconcarib.com. We'll send you our sponsor deck. Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So again, thank you for joining us for this episode of This Week in Caribbean Tech. See you back here next week, Friday, for another episode. My name is Ingrid Riley, and that one is...
I'm Daniel Smith.
All right, take it easy and have a great rest of the week and weekend.
Bye.